story of Annalise Michelle, or in the case of the movie, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, in my opinions, was the story of a very sick woman instead of someone who was demonically possessed. The film didn't influence my beliefs on exorcisms, even though I do think it was not demonic possession. But I think that there is still a time and a place when exorcisms are needed instead of looking at things in a psychological way. And in regards to the film compared to the case, the things that I thought were like accurate to the story were definitely the like descriptions of like the pressure on her chest, feeling like she was being pushed down, the hallucinations, and like the stiffness of her body and like the vocal distortion. But things definitely I think was made up for the movie were like the scene when they were like doing the first exorcism and they were in the barn and she like let the horses out with her mind and like all this stuff. But I also think that the trial was probably pretty accurate to actually how it went down in reality. And staying on the topic of the trial, I definitely think I agree with the jury with what they picked because, in my opinions, Father Moore was responsible in any way, shape, and form. Like, once again, even if you see it as a girl who was demonically possessed, I don't see how it's okay to be like, okay, so the demons took her when the autopsy came back and it said that she had died of malnutrition and dehydration, which are very of this world. These are very common things to pass away from, especially because they were probably more focused on the demonic things than actually her well being as a person. And like the one uh, doctor on the court case said, was even if it was against her will, force feeding and like setting up an IV drip and all this stuff would not be a bad idea because it would save her life, even if it's not really of her will, but there were a lot of things that were done without her consent. Um, I also think Father Moore was responsible because even in the trial, they mentioned that he does tell her to stop taking her medicine, which he has no right to do because he is not a doctor, so he can't say what's medically good for her when you are a priest and not a doctor. And finally, my final thoughts on the movie was I thought it was really good. Of course, everyone in my life was like, "Oh, it's so scary. You're gonna be terrified." And I didn't think it was that scary, but I also didn't think The Exorcist was too bad. But I think it was a really accurate portrayal of like seeing how there is two sides to every story and it's not really the best idea to act heavily more on one than the other in the case of putting someone's life on the line for religious beliefs or medical treatment. Like, there needs to be a harmony, especially if you are completely not sure what's happening. So, those are my thoughts on the case of Annalise Michelle or Emily Rose.